Good evening, folks, and welcome to Fintellectual Finds. I'm your host, Finn. Tonight, I've got, we've been having a little bit of fun around here today. I decided I needed to terrorize the electric blue acara, more that it was time to split the babies in about half. As I mentioned originally, the brood was close to about somewhere between 30 and 40 of them when they originally spawned, and they were only in a 25-gallon holding tank with their mom. So they're getting to the point now where, they're getting the tank. It's getting a little messier faster than I would prefer, and we decided to move two of them over, and it was, if anything, a good enough excuse to make a video just to show why I have at least two more of the tanks in my setups here today. So, the first one, as you can see, this is the original tank that we transferred mom and the babies to back in December of last year. This is a 25-gallon tank. It's, again, we found this off of Goodwill, so price was right for the glass. And as you'll notice with a lot of my tank setups here, I am very consistent on liking the black sand. Part of that is my own preferences, but also a lot of the fish that I usually try to get, they have either softer underbellies, don't usually have as many scales, so I prefer to get sand. Now, if you're going to, like your PetSmart, your Petco's, they usually also try to sell polished aquarium gravel, which, depending on the fish that you're buying, may or may not be a problem. Usually it shouldn't be. Most fish don't care too much, but yeah, if you're getting like the loaches, they're scaleless, or even like the corridoras, where those that gravel can help. It'll start messing up their whiskers and stuff on the front of them. The sand is a better preference, and also with other species like coolie loaches, or if you decide to go get like a tire track eel, anything like that. They also prefer being able to hide in the substrates. So yeah, there's a lot of instances where rocks are not as good. And if you really want to have problems with getting any of the smooth aquarium gravel, try buying an axolotl. Yes, those adorable little cold water salamanders are unfortunately not the smartest in the bunch, and they have been known to, decide they just want to start eating rocks and swallowing them, and, well, then they get impacted and will, not survive because of that. And at least last time I checked, most of the times in the pet stores, if you see an axolotl, or even at like the actual fish stores, they're usually about roughly $80 a piece. Last I checked, some of the fancier breeds can be even more. So, yet sand is generally safer. Now, of course, with the sand you can get different coarseness. I found out with Timu, usually it was a slightly rougher version of the black sand, versus where if you got it from like Petco or PetSmart, was a little more finely grained, but otherwise wasn't really an issue. Most of the fish did not seem to care. The only big difference is if you have if you're trying to use a filter or like a gravel filter or anything like that, well, yeah, you would probably prefer having a slightly more coarse sand, because the thin stuff is just going to go straight up and into the bucket, and good luck getting it back into the tank successfully afterwards. So, it's not a very long clip of what we've got here. So, but yes, as we can see, there's actual moving fish. Now, as far as the actual insides of the tank, we have one Amazon sword on the left. These are known for being a very high nutrient absorber. So, yeah, your fish are making waste, and the fish likes plant food. Now, if you're noticing in the video, you could say, hey, the plant looks slightly sickly. Is it all right? We actually transferred this one from the original tank. We first started off with trying to make a beta sorority, and I had probably about 3 or 4 Amazon swords in there. And they were happy. They were originally planted, they grew, they prospered, and looked gorgeous. And then as I started acquiring more tanks, and as we, started to try to set this one up as the the baby station, well, one of those Amazon swords moved it over, and it just basically has been giving me the middle finger ever since because it said, I do not like the fact that you moved me out of a home I was happy with. So, yeah, for just at least a fun fact, if you guys ever decide to get Amazon swords, be sure to put them in a tank and make sure that's preferably where you want it to go. Because if once they get situated, if you try moving them around, they can live, but they are not going to be. They seem to usually like to get sick and try to exit the mortal coil faster than you'd prefer. The other plants, on the other hand, that you see in the middle here, these are part of the Anubia family. I believe that the larger one is an Anubia nanus, and the smaller one, I can't recall exactly which one I got. These are also very common to get at your local Petco. Normally, you'll see these in the live aquarium plants. And the nice thing about these is if you purchase them, they come in those little plastic tubes. They're they were pre-grown. They're adjusted to be able to handle water, and they are snail free. Now, if you go to a normal aquatic shop and you try to purchase live plants, there is the chance that you're going to get snails included. Now, snails themselves are great as part of the cleanup crew. They help with an ecosystem, so that part in itself is not the problem. But you're usually getting the pest snails when they, are freeloaders. One of these days I'll show you the video. We actually have a Peruvian apple snail that is in my 50-gallon tank. He was a freeloader. That was never one of the original intents of what to get. So yeah, so we were waiting for the water cycles to go, the nitrogen cycles to go through as the tanks were setting up. All of a sudden I had a bunch of Amazon wood and a handful of plants, and as the weeks were progressing, before I thought I was going to be ready to get fish, well, life started finding a way, because some of the snail eggs, they were there on the plants and they started hatching, which was kind of cool. And then just out of the random happenstance, one of these snails, he became huge. Now, if you guys have ever seen an apple snail, you're probably not going to see them at a pet store normally. They are considered by default an invasive species because a lot of people just go, oh, the snail's too big. Guess I'll let it outside. Then they lay eggs and they will just wreck ecosystems. Yeah, so the one we have, he's staying in that tank until he dies. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. But, yeah, the snail is almost 4 inches long in himself, so half of the time he's more fun to watch than the fish just because he's just a mammoth. Uh, this tank, however, usually with most of the snails you'll get, the most common pest snails will either be the bladder snails or the ram's horns. The ram's horns, as their name implies, do look like the horns of a ram, how they curl up into each other. They will eat algae. They're great for cleanup control, but they are able to reproduce on their own. You don't need like 3 or 4 of them. If they decide they're liking conditions, they are asexual. So all of a sudden you have one snail, and next thing you know, you have a whole bunch of them, and you don't remember signing a waiver for where they'd come. Now, for tanks like mine with like the pea puffers, and even with like some of the different loach families, even cichlids, they do like to make snacks out of snails. So if you all of a sudden have an explosion of them and you have a few of the breeds that are great for snail eating, well, you just have a free snack supply that restocks itself, and your fish are going to love you for it. But depending on the day, sometimes they can just look completely out of control. So, as this video continues, as you can see, we cut the babies down roughly half. I think I got about 15 or so moved over to the other tank. So that was pretty much all that we could do. They're, 3 months old, but they already hate the net with a passion. Who would have guessed? But, it happens. So now we'll go into video number 2 here and bring this up so you can see what is left of one of the other tanks that we had. Alright. Please. Okay, you can do this. All right. This used to be the beta community tank. We had a beta sorority. Few, and as you can see in this one, we have, well, Amazon swords. As I said, I had about two or three more of them in this at one point. But yeah, the one that's in the middle there, that is, yeah, whole and healthy. And we have snails like nobody's business in this tank, thanks to the pest snails. And also, we have, let's see, I believe I have three of the mystery snails in here. Mystery snails are very similar to what you would have seen from uh, basically the Peruvian apple snail, except they are smaller. They only get up to about an inch and a half for full size, so I mean, they're still pretty big. They're noticeable, but yeah, they do not get anywhere near as large, and they lay egg clutches like nobody's business. So yeah, I've been trying to see how many times we can get them to successfully hatch and then, well, just survive past that point, because worst case, you guys might eventually be seeing posts on here also that there's a huge surplus of mystery snails that you can add in with your other fish if you want anything from us. But yeah, we have our basic power head, and as you can see, a couple of the babies are swimming in the corners there and even underneath. They're scattering about, they're fine, they're adjusting, they really don't care what's going on this, to be honest. But yeah, so I mean, half of this today was just part of tank maintenance, day in the life of fish keepers. And if you realize all of a sudden you got an extra tank that's just been sitting there and you didn't know exactly what to do with it after having to recover from a few little other incidences, it turns out great temporary tanks, and you can get everything moved over. So yeah, well, this should at least hopefully slow down how many times we need to clear out the tanks, or at least change the water, because they were starting to get a little high there. And hopefully, in one of the later videos, we'll start seeing we'll see how big these guys can get now that they have a little more growing space, and nobody else to really compete with other than three mystery snails, which aren't going to do anything. So anyhow, guys, if you have any other questions or concerns, or at least just comments that you'd like to post on the tanks or with the basic setups, or if you want to know any information, feel free to leave comments below, ask your questions, and yeah, I'll be happy to see what I can answer for you on, either on my personal tank setups, or just what like what else you'd want to do for setting them up if you're looking for basic ideas. So anyways, this is Finn for Fintellectual Finds, and have a good night.